Oh boy.
Like, what? This is why it's like so frustrating dealing with MAGA sometimes. It's like, bruh,
Government agencies are not funded
by the government.
by the government.
Like, that's not true.
Absolutely not. That makes no sense.
You're
Why
dumb.
would you
I don't know what you want me to tell you, dude. There's not much else we can speak about. He was just so mean to me. Okay, that's what that. Mexican guy, Asian woman. This what y'all rocking with. Okay, but then he has to realize like he was actually in the wrong the entire time. I think he would just explode. Sam Seder.
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture.
Like, how are you that fucking stupid? That's what you say to millions of people? Don't you think it's better to be xenophobic and nationalist? What the fuck? This is America, bitch.
Do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
I mean, look, I gotta be honest with you, like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. Hi, I'm Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I notice a lot of people have been shitting on Jubilee lately, and I get it.
Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report. Today,
as I'm watching them,
I am surrounded by 20 conservatives.
At the end of my Joe Rogan video, I'm like 85% sure I'm gonna push for Joe to speak to Sam Seder and or David Pakman, and then also Jasmine Crockett and or AOC.
My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
This is cringy as fuck.
All right. Sorry, Sam.
No worries.
Hey, appreciate you.
All right. I think I have a slight issue with the back end of the premise. I guess Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, give corporations more power.
I know, Tristan. The fact that they ever have to like fucking run full speed, sit in this stupid ass chair is really stupid.
Center the conversation around the democratic, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, want to support the issues that, people are voting for him for.
I mean, I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA,
Sure.
right? You know that.
Right.
In government agencies. The A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being, inaccessible to get into a job. It rather wants to
I think that's exactly what it does, no?
incentivize corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases, right?
Okay, but DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different...
Carlos, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I'm shocked that this guy with this Noah Samson aesthetic is like a conservative. Like, when you look like that and you're conservative, to me, you are probably a neo-Nazi.
Communities.
Well, that's the great thing about 2025. You don't know who to trust.
Clearly not anymore. I thought if I saw this guy on the street, for sure, left-leaning guy. Because they kind of, at first, it was like white supremacists look like this guy. And then, like, the Noah Samsons, they all started wearing the mullet and having the mustache as, like, an ironic thing. But we're, like, super left-leaning guys. And then, and now maybe they're switching back. I don't know.
That have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean, within government agencies, it means things like, let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town,
Sure.
metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
Right. This is where it begins, but this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well, then why?
Yes, they do. Some of them do, not all.
Rescind DEIA requirements in government agencies.
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with corporations.
Do you have the evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper bases. We can even look at.
I mean,
we can even look at.
Would you
the
have
DNC's,
any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year. There was no reason to nominate Kamala as she wasn't democratically selected. She wasn't.
Like, bro, this is why people just need to say, I don't know. You know what I mean?
They love that one.
Kamala's DEI. I mean, I feel like he would have had more of an argument for Joe Biden nominating her than for her being the candidate this election, because it's like, bro, she was the vice president, dumbass. Like, that's why
she wasn't selected.
And that's fair, but I mean, I think that had a lot more to do with like a time constraint thing, you know.
She didn't go through a single primary. None of these things.
So you're saying that Kamala was the vice president of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that party,
Do you realize
except
there were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972
Well,
in
sure,
the Democratic
but
Party?
this isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well, sure,
I mean, Joe Biden should have dropped out even 3 years ago, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primaries, she didn't. She wasn't the next man up. None of this. She wasn't the next person.
Well, she was the vice president,
right? Of course, but she wasn't in.
That means you're next.
Primaries.
But listen, aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well. But that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search.
That's what I'm thinking, Justin, because like, I don't know why he said that when he was like, I'm looking for a woman of color. I mean, clearly you're only saying that to get like fucking bonus points, you know? But if you really like gave a shit about like Kamala Harris, you would never would have said that. You would have just said, I would have picked the best one and then just picked the best one. But like now, even though she's clearly, even if you don't like her, on paper, she is qualified. She's done all the things, you know? So you can't be like, DEI, and then hire a fucking alcoholic Fox News host with fucking predator allegations and all these fucked up allegations to be in charge of our defense, and then I'm supposed to be like, qualified guy. He went to college. Like, what the fuck?
For a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job.
I don't know how to say it. I'm just going to say 1, 2, 4. Don't put that kind of pressure on me, okay?
You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have folks who identify as as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all about.
But you're cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues with making workplaces.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said. Had nothing to do with quotas.
It is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific
What
numerical
else was he trying to take out with
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting.
See? It's all back to that same thing. That's the Republican mindset.
Pushed into positions they have no qualification.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true at all. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't
give me one example.
You can't ask me to pull up numbers when I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer.
Well, it is fair to ask why you're so sure that this is happening. Who do you know? Where are you getting this shit from?
But these
what do the flags represent? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I want to be.
I thought it was like once you get to half, then they have to get up out that chair.
These are problems that
we just heard that.
Conservatives.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Sam.
Thanks, man.
Shaking your fucking hand. Coon, sorry.
Well, he was obviously going to win that.
See ya.
True. Okay. Quick twitch muscle.
So I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue is, and I kind of referred to this before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great.
What evidence do you have that it's heavily abused? That guy couldn't even name one person who got hired that wasn't qualified. So what are you talking about?
In theory, it's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused in a lot of ways. When you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of gender, race, right?
Well, is it for a specific role? Or like, isn't that how acting works? Dumbass, like what the fuck? Anybody can play anything. Or are you just talking about like, are like whole studios being like, we're not hiring any white men to do anything? What are we talking about?
That is an abuse of a system. It's no longer fair, but more about just perpetuating one aspect.
Also, we're talking about government agencies, so why are you talking about Hollywood?
Of, visual compelling aspects, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look
Carlos True.
the most diverse.
Don't look any more disgusted.
And what that is, it's moral grandstanding. It's saying because we have more black women, we sell better soda, like that.
I got you.
That is not.
Well, that's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me. And I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years, there's nothing, I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job. I
think what's happening is we're talking about 2 different things.
But I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission.
Yeah, bro, you need to answer his question, nigga.
Is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
You're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying.
So this is what my understanding, and I really should do research, but DEI is just saying like, hey, we want more people to be aware of this job opportunity. It's not we're only hiring X. Like he said, there are no quotas.
Trump, but I think the American people as a whole have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because, again,
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case, but again, my point is we're talking about abuse of a system. What you're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white, you can't do this, and liberals like to do this thing where they create systems, and then they created the whole idea of woke, and then they backed away, and then conservatives say woke, and then they're like, well, we don't know what woke is. They created DEI. Biden literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden Democrats for the rest after that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said that.
For a second.
Yes, sir.
I wanna pick your brain. No Diddy.
Okay.
What is the source of woke to you? Where did it stem from?
Originally, black people.
Okay.
If we're going back to like the 60s, probably, maybe even the 50s. I don't know, but basically it meant just like being aware, right?
Right.
And then white people ruined it, as they
And
usually
it's
do.
sad that this young man doesn't know that or seem to know that.
Yeah.
What? You know, I was just making sure.
Yeah.
Just checking your coon card.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And then we have this
Biden,
cognitive.
no.
God, well, that nigga clearly just crazy.
We have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not
that's
living
niggas
in
for
reality.
Trump or whatever. Gangsters for Trump. Was that him?
Oh God, not. Yeah, he did some stupid shit.
Biden wanted to make sure that there was that there was an opportunity
looking
for
for
a
that
black woman to
$5,000
be his
check.
vice
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
president. Without a
But
doubt.
so why did Democrats move away from that and say no? It wasn't because
I
she was a
don't
black
know.
woman.
I don't
So
know
my
what
my point is
No.
my point is
it's
that.
not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did
That is what Joe Biden said, I think.
they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I
that's not
don't
what we're saying.
believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't saying, that there aren't, because again, even in the Republican Party right now and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No, but if J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her color of her skin.
Listen, I'm not here to defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85% of Republicans are white. That's
Why do you think that is, nigga? Wake the fuck up.
just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective
it's just
government?
That the idea
what does race have to do? What
they
does race
don't
have to do?
Say,
Hold on. What does
Donald
race?
Trump didn't have to
what
say
does race
my
have
vice
to
president's
do?
going to be a white male.
No.
They all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the premise of DI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What does race have to do? If let's say DI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I going to
Ask me
get
a
better
question.
nuggets?
I'll ask you a question.
Damn, nigga, you gonna let him answer the fucking question, or you just want to fucking hear
Yes,
yourself
you are
talk?
going to get better nuggets if you let a black man cook them because they season them.
That's actually true.
If the cashier is black or white, what does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it is. First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protects people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans. It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right, please return to your seat.
You know what? That was actually strength. He didn't want to say I don't know all the way, but that was, for a Republican, that was pretty good. Still a coon though. Work on it. Oh.
See, that's why you got to talk with more hood in your voice.
Hi.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How you doing?
Okay, when it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist,
Why'd
he
you
would
say that?
hire someone regardless.
Huh?
I said, why'd you say that?
Because the self-hate is just crazy. Like, why we got all these self-hating ass niggas? We got a gay dude for Trump. How do you know he's gay? Stop. We got a black dude for Trump. Like, it's just too damn much, bro.
How do you
right.
know he's black?
So why would
My God. You know when I used to work at that dumbass grocery store, they literally told me that stupid shit.
What?
Cause some customer wrote something about like me and another worker, and they're like the black guy and I think they actually did get her race wrong. She was Mexican, and I think I don't know if they said she was Mexican. They're like, how would you even know that you're black? And I was like, nigga, really? I was like, all right.
We need a policy to protect a
I don't think I said shit. It was my boss. I was just like, what the fuck?
person.
It was like one of those things where it was so stupid where it didn't fully hit me until like 5 minutes later. I was like,
Oh, I get that.
like, did he really just say that?
moved past racism. So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of, white supremacy. I think actually like we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children, because children are being stripped away from
Who's
their
their
parents.
own children? Wait, children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender-affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids,
If
of
a
course.
child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in terms of
Yeah, I feel like they lose a lot of kids. They lose a lot of people with the kid shit. Like, if you just lose the, like, sex change for kids, I think you gain, like, at least 7%.
DEI initiative, in terms of a DEI initiative, the reason why there's military bans on trans women
I
and
hear
trans
you,
men
but, like,
is
you lose a
because
lot of
they
people.
do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment, as well as depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills. And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your whether that be hormone estrogen or whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war?
Well, the executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA.
What do you call it?
They just revoked.
What do I call what?
That power, that ability.
Gaydar.
Hey.
Duh.
The ability
And I actually made that up, and you can't prove that I didn't.
of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well,
Like,
we're not-
what are we talking about here?
Okay, well,
Honestly, like they're rewriting history.
well, that's your perspective, right? But
That's the shit that makes me go fucking crazy. You'll tell somebody a fact, and they'll be like, well, that's your opinion. And it's like, no, what? No.
at the end of the day, if a
happened.
person
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed, right?
Just listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts. For the end of the year, when you create your tax returns, they give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private
In government
businesses.
agencies, they don't get tax cuts for hiring people of
And the
color.
other thing I wanted
This is
to,
to
and I,
protect
the other
people
thing I
from
want
discrimination.
the other thing I want to
See, like, this is my thing, right? This is why I think this dude's a bitch. Because it's like, if you're going to have a genuine conversation with somebody, if I say something and they say, hey, what you said is actually not true, I can't just go on to some other thing. We have to talk about what the fuck what he just said back at my face. This is why it's like, bro, these people have no interest in developing, growing, learning anything. You just want to get your stupid fucking points across. because you saw some bullshit on the internet. You didn't fucking research anything. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But you're so focused on speaking that you're not learning. I'd be like, oh, what? Like, that was a big deal, what he just said. Your whole thing was you think it's for the tax cuts, and he said they don't get tax cuts. What's your, like, you should have a response to that.
State here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on...
DEIA does not is not.
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color, physical attributes.
It says that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
Against people who may have different cultural mores, may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should be based on merit. And that is the emphasis
People
here.
get hired as a merit, but if the DEIA, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of these orders on these agencies.
If you received a tax cut as an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
He already said there is no tax cut, dumb fuck.
Dude,
if you could pay them less.
Listen, we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes.
Wouldn't that be kind of again? Like, why would like that doesn't even make sense? Why would the fucking FBI pay taxes when it's funded by taxes? Like, bruh, are you fucking stupid?
Agencies operate are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not.
Oh boy.
Like what? This is why it's like so frustrating dealing with MAGA sometimes. Cause it's like, bruh,
government agencies are not funded
by the government.
By the government.
Like that's not true.
Absolutely not. That makes no sense.
You're dumb. Like, bro, like niggas like this, like, bruh. You just gotta there's not even a point in speaking to you. You're just stupid.
And
you know what? I think
when you do that, that's when they say, see, I was right. That's why he gave up so easily.
And then I say, I tried, bro. But when you said that government agencies aren't funded by the government, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you, dude. There's not much else we can speak about.
I'm talking slowly because I'm obviously correct.
That's why he looks like he's like, there's no helping. Yep. There's no helping this man. He's doing.
Anybody with a brain has been in this position.
Yeah.
They've made this face.
What's up, Eric? Leon?
I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes.
I would have been gave up.
It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every
I like that.
part
I love
of
me a
society.
buzzword. You must do your best effort. I love.
That's a buzzword.
Like, bro, I know your family hates you. There's no way they don't. There's no way your family does not hate you.
I love that buzzword.
Okay, pause.
Because you feel like you have to. You're pressured to.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
He didn't say hire. Do you motherfuckers speak English? Goddamn.
Oh, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get tax cuts.
All right.
Oh my God, I would have choked that nigga. I would have lost my fucking mind.
Oh my God.
Am I in a fucking asylum?
At the end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone.
I'd have been like, all right, go sit down over there, pull your phone out, Google it, and then get back to me.
For real.
Language or different skin color.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Get off.
Oh, I would have called that nigga a slur. You earned that, buddy. Sorry.
How you doing?
Fuck.
So I want a little bit more clarification because I don't even know if we got it yet.
Thank you. That's the first reasonable thing I fucking heard. I'm turning the fan on.
They got him heated, yo.
Like, bro, just lead
so
with.
angry, he's hot.
Just lead with I don't know. The government is confusing.
On which part benefits corporations, like from your perspective?
So agencies, the U.S. government agencies, the vast majority of them, what they function to do is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? Sorry. And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of deposited, because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it, I'm gonna dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, you can't do that, we're gonna fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're gonna take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river. And those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river.
I can't even say that's like education. That should just be like, if you graduated high school, no matter how bad your high school was, that should have made sense to you. I'm still back on the government agencies aren't funded by the government thing. Like, what the fuck? There is I have noticed, this is going to sound cunty, but whatever. Once I started reading books on logic, and once you just listen to people's way of connecting the dots, it's crazy how anytime I talk to most people, their logic is just super fucking flawed. It's crazy. Not that bad, but I hear shit like that way more often than I should.
Get cancer.
And sometimes it's by people who are college educated. I don't know what that's called, but a lot of people don't fucking have that shit.
They're going to get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is. And society bears the cost of that.
Can you connect the dots for me, though? Because it sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of Russell Vought's thing,
Yeah, I agree.
the OMB, the whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people and they don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree if this is about demoralizing? I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEIA is, according to your definition of it?
Well, the government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies and the military and other organizations, not just the military.
I think they're demoralized by what they think, for sure, but they don't fucking know.
Return to your seat.
I heard Joe Rogan bitching about DEI in the office space. That motherfucker has never worked in an office a day in his life. He just reads shit. I'm sorry. He watches videos on the internet. Of grifters.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fastest news for partnering with us.
If you're a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
Agreed. Even if you're a billionaire, it's probably still a mistake because we might come for that ass. Pause.
Whoa.
Come on, bruh. You got jagged tooth
so
again.
Let's tackle one aspect, religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also, can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
And maybe you could say more of a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance. But things like, the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose, the idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
Like, what do you think you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of economic?
Oh God, you're fucking dumb as shit. What a moron.
Economic relief. They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut.
No. Okay, buddy. They just cut 7,000 people who work for that bitch. And the dude with the chainsaw just said that it's a scam, and he also said that the West's number one weakness is empathy.
Empathy.
Good fucking luck with that, dude.
When they go after the agencies like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up Project 2025.
When you cut agencies and go after them, and you fire all the inspector generals so that they're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working, who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do.
Shit.
Agencies exist to curb corporations from externalizing their costs.
Probably not, Eric. Good observation.
And privatizing their profit.
Also, he wouldn't have that haircut. This shit in the back would be tapered up. Yeah, he wouldn't have that style.
None of that is trustworthy.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, what are you, 42 or 26?
I
What
know,
are you doing?
and he's got the grays too. It's real weird. You know he's young, but it's that self-hate. It's aging him. It's aging him.
So it may be cheaper for a company to dump.
This is when I have to be like, damn, FD was kind of right. You know what I mean? Like, if you're black and you grow up in an all-white environment, this is what it can do to you.
Their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society.
Leon, don't put that on me.
They're borne by society in the form of, like, people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of, like, we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Loser, stop running to the thing and taking up all the time. Why is he raising his hand? You're supposed to run. Run!
Hey. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So, like, when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference.
What?
So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
At least this guy he came with some shit.
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean, it would be
morally right under your
not
view.
morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off
I
of.
believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good.
Whoa.
This is why you gotta ask these niggas questions. They be telling on themselves.
Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
Oh, wow. These are your people. These are your people, buddy.
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided...
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than...
Okay, so you're okay with a 45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well? Incest?
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's like it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about freedom and exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine on me, and I don't want that.
You just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
you have no
your
contention.
religion to... Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that?
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a bunch of Christian.
Female. You're right.
You have a Christian nationalist, and
which is necessary.
And so
what do you think this guy's story is? Huh? How do you think he got here?
I have no idea.
I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage under this.
Sorry, we're gonna have.
I feel like when you hate gay people young, I feel like it's either closeted shit, like you're just spiteful and you just kind of hate everybody, or like religious brainwashing. Am I missing one?
More kids, we're going to have less abortion.
I don't think it necessarily has to be religious, but brainwashing, yeah.
Well, like usually the brainwashing is usually has some sort of religious justification. Young?
Usually, but not necessarily. But
I would say not always, but I would. If I were a betting man,
I would say like 7 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better education.
Right. We are two black people, right?
On hood.
I don't think most black people are as religious as they claim to be. Okay.
I think most black people believe in God.
That don't make them religious, though. I don't think so.
Fair.
I think it's a difference.
That's true.
But the black community is traditionally not on that shit.
They be homophobic.
Yeah. So
True.
That's why I say 7 out of 10, because like niggas just gonna be like, ugh.
That's true. That's true. I think that's fair.
Gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit to the husbands.
Women
that doesn't
should
mean
submit
Oh, maybe this might be a little bit of incel. Maybe a little bit of like, they don't like me. I'm sure this guy wasn't crushing puss throughout his youth, so I could see that.
It doesn't mean they are slaves.
Right,
It doesn't mean they are slaves. It means they are.
What makes you think that?
This guy's look at the jacket he's wearing.
Listen,
Okay, let me ask you that. Let me ask you.
No.
It's Carhartt.
This is unacceptable.
Carhartt.
His haircut, his facial hair is all fucked up. He's just awkward. He's goofy looking. His whole vibe is weird. He's all agitated.
I do not like this guy's eyes. He has them, push him a little too far eyes.
Yeah, this guy's got woman beater energy. 100% got woman beater energy.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
He got brute face.
Brute face?
Yeah.
Like, look at this.
Grunt.
I hate this, like, passive-aggressive smile thing. Ugh, dude.
Like, before Goon became what it is, he would be a goon.
Yeah.
If they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think
Ghoul.
this is the vision that you have, and I think
Look at this. His whole vibe is just, like, narc.
Trump supports it.
This guy, like, wants to be a Fed so he can fit in. It's fucking gross.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going
Eric says stereotypical self-hating Mexican quarter zip and haircut. See? I knew it.
to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by
Eric, is this the type of dude who would only date white girls, or is this different?
the notion of
Everybody, Eric is Mexican, if you were wondering.
a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and that, and it,
pretty awesome.
Apparently, that's good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
but
we
I
see,
don't want to live in a
my final point is
theocracy.
whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society.
You hear that?
Is this bitch serious? Does he
You hear
actually think that?
No, he knows that.
You know we were living under a Christian society during slavery, right? Did you know that?
When we see people
No,
deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right.
He wanted to be a cop, the type to call them white queens. Yeah, this guy definitely gives off like I want to be a cop energy. It's fucking gross.
I think you are at home in the Trump. Trump
Thank you very much.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
I'm at the point, well, I go back and forth. Well, usually I'm at the point where I don't want to shake these people's hands, bro. Getting the same people.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, man.
I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's how a democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon.
Is it he what?
He does a great job of listening.
I'm assuming that was irony. Are you talking about Sam?
Sam, yeah.
Yeah.
Implications that I
shit.
I know, seriously. I like Sam.
Draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology like all ideologies are. It's you vote.
Yeah, but you want to put your shit on everybody else when it's based off of. Let me not get disrespectful.
I don't mind you.
Get nasty. No,
I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, Elazar, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be, but others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like, Having a theocracy is something different than having.
I think love thy neighbor is
Sure.
a good precept,
Right.
and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept.
Cool.
I think there are things from religion that are good.
Yeah.
I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be. Is like a knife. It can be used to spread butter, or it could be used to stab people.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy,
Sure.
and it was founded on trying to get out
Right.
from some type of like religious oppression,
Yeah.
which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's my sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't, at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he has a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is...
I don't know about that one, buddy.
Is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any ideology is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine.
Right.
I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy and civil society.
And I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way that you...
How?
Well, I
earlier-
mean, look, we can have a debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to
Exactly.
men.
Right.
I don't think they should be,
Right.
and in a democracy, I don't think it's healthy.
Right, but when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is, religious truth and what isn't religious truth, that's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either, right?
I don't know, when Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
But now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the
Sure.
world. I think, and he is informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but we
can
don't-
disagree on
Yeah,
that.
we don't take...
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Loser.
Return to your seat.
Kidding. I'm not actually. God, again.
Okay, so Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years?
From what I understand, Republicans
Yet.
vote against gay marriage all the time.
Okay. Is there anyone in here who
We're
would
only 2
potentially
months in.
Yeah, seriously.
oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public, kissing in public.
Oh yeah, that shit's gay.
Yeah, we know that guy's pissed.
No law against it.
It should have been me. Ugh.
Just your own opinion. Okay, so these are all people's opinions, right? The same way you have your opinions about Christians is the same way.
God, the way he speaks.
I hate the way this guy talks. Not even the like
so
gay
condescending.
lisp shit. It's his tone.
It's
That
like
shit.
it's like he's like trying to talk down to you, like he's real, like you're the dumb one, and like he's saying shit, but he's so fucking stupid. It's like embarrassing.
It's sad.
So fucking embarrassing, dude.
These people.
I feel like a person like this is one, clinically insane, and two, like so full of themselves that I don't even think their brain would allow them to realize that they're actually wrong. Because if they did, like, imagine the shame you would feel, like, because he thinks he's killing it. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, bro, I fucking just told that little dumbass motherfucker. But then he has to realize, like, he was actually in the wrong the entire time. I think he would just explode. Boss.
That's what I'm saying. I would have had that nigga sit down, Google that shit you just claimed,
Seriously.
see that you're wrong, then get back to me.
Yeah.
So I can laugh in your face.
Yeah, I think that's your best bet. You can't speak to him. He's just...
People are
No,
allowed.
I don't have a problem with Christians.
But then it'd be
Well,
an AI
you
result.
do not believe that theology
validate
should be at its as a.
We should not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying
Correct.
is, I think that Christianity. I'm a Catholic.
Of course you are.
I think that Christianity is, I think, fundamentally very important to instill family values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about.
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on. What you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face. And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at such a young age. 50% of children.
Do you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years? Let's say, I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I do, but I'm curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers are.
I promise to tell you after you tell me what you think it is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
we're not playing this game.
No, I am playing this game because I think you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal because of it.
Okay, studies on this subject often suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors, including inadequate follow-up, imprecise. Okay, are you going to tell the real thing? And poorly chosen sample-based. Doctors agree more research is needed. Okay, so you didn't really say shit. Got it.
Actually, more depressed because of it.
Thanks, Jubilee. No, a fucking non-answer as usual, you coward fucks.
How many of those kids? How many?
A psychologist,
How
by the
many
way.
over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me.
Yes, just give him an over and under.
I know what you're
pick the under.
trying to do. You're trying to put me in this chokehold of like,
no, I'm not trying to put you in a choke. No, this is definitely a gotcha moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than it is.
It is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medi-Cal, Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know one person has had that surgery.
I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner who wants to transition.
Well, I think because we got to do health care for prisoners, and you don't consider it real health care. But hold on, I don't want to get...
imposed $2.6 billion
it's
in
900 kids over 5 years.
That is a lot of children.
Puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over 5 years.
547 just passed, including gender identity to allow children to be separated from their parents just due to not affirming their gender identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump how is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated.
Are you for trans people being discriminated with housing?
I'm very passionate about that question, and can I answer it? Okay, so I believe that affirmative action should be...
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. It's not saying that you have to hire trans people. It's saying you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge.
Oh my God, it's like talking to a fucking robot. He's not talking about hiring, you stupid fuck. How many times does he have to say the same fucking thing?
And their work.
We're about to move on. I can't take this nigga anymore. Pause.
Ethic. Not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
action. On their sexual
Are you
orientation.
allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need to, then you should. If you need to, then you should.
So we have a disagreement. I don't quick.
Huh?
I'd say that shit went up quick when he said that.
People should be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with. Just saying.
You're a literal idiot. This is just rage bait. We're gonna watch one more, and if it's equally as stupid as what we've been watching, we'll watch the Theo Von thing. This is just fucking mind-numbing. Oh, here we go. Oh God, we got white nationalism.
So, I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now is
And
just
congratulations.
yeah, and thank you. And yeah, I think
Your life's gonna
what
get
we're
better,
seeing right
right?
now is a culture of
Jesus.
death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a.
Should we mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids. There
So
are like.
you want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw
I think it would
abortion.
benefit. I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so like, sure.
All right. I mean, this I think though reinforces my point that that if you are
But it would be better for society. It would be better for
theocrat, then
everybody
you
in
would be
society.
happy.
And same with xenophobic what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic,
yes.
nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have.
Yeah. These are your people, bro. This is your base. Don't act fucking surprised, bitch.
Have assimilation.
This is y'all.
Which, do
This
you
is
get
what
to
you're over here tap dancing for.
choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture
What is the
based
dominant
on
culture?
European and Christian values and identity.
Ooh, there it is.
That is the dominant culture.
White
It's
Christian-
rooted in European identity.
White. So your argument is
That has been the
it's-
dominant culture.
Hey, black guy, you listening? You listening?
Just to be
And
You're
clear,
like, yes, it is their country.
Not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you
love
should
that.
keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I
Why is she shaking?
think the identity of
For the
America.
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well,
The identity? Like what? Like why is she acting like she just got her ass beat like 30 minutes ago? Like, you know when you're a kid and you're like kind of crying because you just got fucked up? She gives me that vibe.
That's how they have. It's like having your hand on your holstered gun. You know, she's ready to weaponize her white girl tears.
He was
what
just
she's
so
doing.
mean to me. Okay,
Yep.
that's what that is. Okay, that makes sense.
actually,
finger on
no,
the
I
trigger
think
right here.
actually
Always.
the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant
But,
culture. Is that not
well,
what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and
mean
now
that
instead we're
assimilate
saying there's something
to
wrong
the
with
dominant
xenophobia.
culture. No, I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice, and I think what you're expressing though is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I mean,
problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social
So you don't think that he's conservative?
No,
He literally got abortion He brags about getting abortion taken away. What are you fucking talking about?
Enough for you.
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you.
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I mean,
I would have been like, look, y'all, this
Y'all heard
good
it.
with this. Remember this shit. Mexican guy, Asian woman. This what y'all rocking with. Okay. You're all coons.
You H1Bs in here, raise your hand.
She don't like
and
you.
the DEI over there.
She does not like you. No matter how fucking much you zip up that goofy ass jacket, bro, she will always view you as an intruder, okay? Remember that.
I think you.
No matter how much tap dancing you do, she will never like your ass. Stop begging. It's pathetic.
You're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying he's not even in this. Okay.
Are you saying shut the fuck up, bitch? I'm sorry. You're stupid.
Hey.
You're dumb. Get the fuck off the screen. You're dumb. Who clapped for that?
My next claim is the GOP will destroy Social Security and health care.
I thought that was a C. I'm like, the cop? What? That's what it's looking like. This aged like fine wine from what I can tell.
When was this?
I just saw him actually talk about it. He said he filmed this in January.
Nice to see you.
So, what if Social Security should go away?
And here it is.
That's my question to you.
Because Social Security
so
keeps
angry.
2/3 of our elderly out
pal.
of poverty. And not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life you don't have enough money to survive.
For
And
right
so-
now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our
Albatross? What the what?
generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
Let me just explain this.
well, you're
Let me
gonna
explain
go
this to you.
back to lecturing me about Social
because-
Security.
Well,
we don't
that's
have.
what we're talking
we
about.
Are,
Social
yeah,
Security.
Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our government does.
Exactly, and we are
it
more than
keeps
$30 trillion in debt.
2/3 of our, well, first of all, Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit
That's
every year.
correct.
We have
because
30
it's
years. We're
self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees because people haven't entered into retirement.
Social Security is funded through a dedicated payroll tax paid by both employers and employees. However, trust fund reserves are expected to run out by 2035, which will lead to a decrease in benefits. Okay, yeah, but there's also a thing that they can do. So, like, fuck you.
By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there. The reason why the trust fund is running out is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money above the cap.
You don't think it's because the government does a terrible job managing their money? They have a huge spending problem, and they go, oh, look at all this money we have for Social Security that's earmarked for 60 years from now that we're just going to spend on something right now.
40 years ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the government are always right? That's totally the thing that you're saying? That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the $40 trillion debt problem. It's you have tax
It's
cuts.
the spending problem. I totally agree with you, which I would argue is part of why Social Security's gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from the Social Security bucket.
No. Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing, the 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is it going down? If everything's so much better, why is it only 78%?
If we raise the cap, there's a cap right now at $176,000. So for instance, if you make $100,000, you pay $6,200 into that.
A year, yeah.
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security? $6,200.
And so why should wealthy people hang on? Why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they should pay the same percentage. 6.2 on $400,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
And why should they pay even more money at all?
Because they make more, dumbass. What the fuck?
Because they make more money? Again, you
Oh my God, what is wrong with these people? these rich people, oh my, they're not, oh my God.
Fundamentally have this idea
progressive
that because
taxation.
somebody, okay, you have an idea that because somebody,
themselves is they imagine like, well, I could have a business and I could be rich and I wouldn't like that,
Exactly.
but they don't have that initiative or drive or smarts to get in that position in life, so it doesn't fucking matter.
It's crazy how these people will just like fuck themselves over because they think they're gonna get some shit. You're not. Even if you do, like, what? Why are you?
makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No.
So like, why wouldn't he just do the same thing with taxes? Like, well, I mean, for taxes, if you make $1 billion a year, why don't you just cut the? Let's say we have a cap on taxes too. If you make over $200,000, then you only pay. Everybody pays 10%, so that's 20 grand. If I make fucking $1 billion, am I still paying 20 grand? Like, where's the logic there? That doesn't make any sense at all.
I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society, we should not allow billionaires. So, for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally, but why should they?
The highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy.
Hang on,
in this
does a
country?
billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course not.
Insurance.
So why should they pay more?
I'll tell you why. Because it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
It was high.
Do you know what it
I don't
was?
know the exact number, but
if you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470. So if we had in today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
it's also the greatest expansion we had of the economy.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places. You see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they fundamentally look at Social Security, young people like me, and they go, I'm going to have that money sitting waiting for me when I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for them?
You're talking like the 401k.
Sure. Well, not just the 401k, but IRAs, any other type of retirement. Would you agree? Would we agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool where back in the day when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions, where you'd know how much money you would get out. Yeah. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution, where you know how much you put in. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if they could.
If the government were changing the mindset.
Eric, what's the invisible hand?
And actually pushing that cultural shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're 65. You have to plan for it right now.
We've had a 40-year experiment with the government affecting the cultural mindset, and it failed.
We've had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say? Do you know what grandparents say? They go, well, I'm just waiting for my Social Security check to come in, rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought about it when I was 19 and 20 because I didn't have this grab bag of money waiting for me. You're assuming that young people
I try and tell my kids.
So we agree. We should get rid of Social Security and phase it out. Well, no. So we should phase out. How would you listen to this idea? You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits, and then people like me who have 40 years until we retire, I'm not going to get it.
I'm going
to get screwed either way.
No,
you really think I'm going to get Social Security someday?
I guarantee you, at the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's awesome. I'll get $9,000 a year. That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
I would much rather, and again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing with money.
And what happens
Don't
if they
rely on
don't?
them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens if a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to.
No.
They're going to have a problem, but that's not my fault.
No, I got news for you. It's not your fault, but there used to be in New York City 30,000 people sleeping on the Bowery.
No one in this room was alive before
Security.
Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
and it
income
has
tax.
been the most successful government program in the history of our government.
Things that are successful don't just start to die out and end up in the...
It's not dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive excess that was there in the early years because of the 42-to-1 beneficiary.
It wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42-to-1
Dude,
is
that was
a
just
massive
because
excess.
There weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that
in 1970, it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is 176,000. That's the cap. If you remove the cap, your grandkids
billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back into...
They're just putting it into some stock market, or they're just looking around.
And what do you think a 401k or an IRA relies upon? It relies on the stock market and things like that.
Yeah, a 401k relies on the stock market, and I knew people who were retiring in 2008 when the stock market tanked, and they got screwed.
Well, that's a whole other problem. I would argue that's largely driven by the government being, once again, terrible with policy and creating bad economic hazards.
Social Security is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thanks,
He's like the smartest person on here. He's still a bitch, though.
Micah.
Hey, Micah.
Good evening,
Sam. Nice to meet you.
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't save for retirement, well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay into it.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it does time and time again, if you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65. And it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one, you should have your own personal...
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program.
Like, well, how is it failing?
Because I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefit.
told you right now.
I know. I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
the main
look
issue.
At the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? Is because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
no, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich people benefited more from it than low-income people? And I would
say. And what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage numbers, and we know that's not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are giving other people jobs to allow.
What small businesses does Amazon invest in?
Bro, you haven't watched Shark Tank?
I've seen it. I've seen Shark Tank.
Yeah, exactly. So shut up.
Allow them to provide for their family.
I never seen Jeff on there.
Pause.
They just didn't call him.
Oh, you're right.
What's up?
Yeah, these
Ruffles
people
on
think
there.
rich
Good to be
people
back.
are about to save their ass. I'm like, bruh, I don't.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay, but Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that.
Medicare. I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the Democrats.
It's also the biggest bucket of money.
It is the biggest bucket, but the
thing.
Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we become.
Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
Over like a
right. So
70%
of our federal spending is mandatory. And that, you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of we're paying for that. So the Democrats run on this. Essentially, they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people, but it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the U.S. is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really
so are
irresponsible.
you worried about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brownback in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue.
That's exactly what happened.
Kansas.
No, that's exactly what happened
It
at TCJ.
destroyed Kansas. By 2016, a Republican legislature raised taxes again.
Okay, let's see what this SAN fact check says. Kansas enacted tax and spending cuts in 2012 and 2013. Brownback argued that this fiscal potion would generate an explosion of economic growth, but overall growth and job creation in Kansas underperformed both the national economy and neighboring states. Damn.
Destroyed their education system.
Reality is against you, my friend.
Look up Kansas.
The numbers.
Fact,
the numbers
during
say
the Trump
Sam is correct.
Administration, they sent Sam Brownback. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy around because it was a disaster.
If you want to tax the rich, you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes under Republican. What? It was the same as Reagan. It was the same as Trump.
It's so funny hearing you say reality is against you, my friend.
I know. It's just like just a lot of misinformation, bro. Like what?
Look at the U.S. We have the numbers.
Like, to really say that Republicans want rich people to pay more in taxes is fucking insane. Like, really?
It's really like, it's weird because like they see, like I can show them a fact, like I can show them a 6, right?
Yeah. And
they'll say, no, that's not a 6. That's an upside down 9.
Yeah, seriously. It's crazy. This guy, like, maybe you could I feel like that's something. This guy seems to be not crazy. I don't know shit about this Kansas thing. Clearly, he got it wrong. Maybe he can be changed, but
it was the perfect
Obama's
experiment.
Best year,
it destroyed
federal income
Kansas.
revenue is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, like it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're confusing causation with correlation because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%. Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor. And that's exactly what happens when they stimulate.
Inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They increased the money supply by $6 trillion.
No, I understand they did that. I understand they did that. And they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to. You're making an argument for higher taxation.
Do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it make the country
wealthier? Do taxes make us wealthy? Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that the only way you create wealth is by producing?
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people.
No, I understand. Inflation is under control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that
inflation is back down because we had a problem.
The welfare
with
state
logistics.
makes us all poorer.
Yes,
it does. And you can see
it doesn't.
Across history.
If you compare,
people want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity. And you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free markets.
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's never
But now there used to be. No. That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most ethical and moral.
America had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal tax rate was 90%.
So what happened in the 70s?
And when
Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had OPEC. We had your oil shock that drove inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%.
Yeah, because
we had wealth inequality shrink.
Post-World War
We had something
II
called the Great Compression, and more people enjoyed.
Post-World War II Industrial Revolution. We were producing more than every other country. It's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And we were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals.
When 90%. Reagan came in and brought it down, the top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax? It was when it was established.
You're talking about the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you to go look at
here's my last
Kansas.
claim. When federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making $100,000 and over. Now we don't even know, most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projections that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought. Because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like the rich people are smart. So focus on producing. Our top marginal
rate still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today.
It was
50% effective tax rate.
Does not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes
well,
do not
I don't know what you mean by wealth. I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services. That's what wealth is. That's what creates wealth. Money. People think money is wealth. Money buys wealth.
Creates less wealth inequality. And then you have wealth that is shared by more people rather than being in the hands of a plutocracy or a plutonomy. And then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen what happens when you punish your top producers over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government,
capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what happens next?
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90% tax rate?
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook. They come in and they're like, guys.
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have higher tax rates.
It is more socialist than ever before.
No,
we have more social welfare spending.
No.
GDP, I'll say it again, 38% of government spending, of GDP is government spending. We have more social welfare programs. And look at what happens. But how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We during in 2021
what do you mean, what programs?
we expended. Hold on. In 2021.
What do you mean? What program?
Hold on.
How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like
let me just finish this.
All right, go
ahead. In 2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment, $300 per social welfare.
Yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%. By 45%, but because no Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Bill Back. I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look it up.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me, and if I was wrong.
All right, we'll call.
I'll do it off camera. And you will see that we cut child poverty in a year by 45%.
I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
All right. We'll talk after.
My next claim is Trump's policies make the rich richer.
Giving them my damn number.
Right. You can have my work email, bitch.
Yeah.
And the working class poorer.
Hello, sir.
Hey,
Hunter Howell. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask what policies in specific are you referencing to?
Tax cuts for the rich. I think his idea of tariffs on countries and the way that he's talking about will make people poorer. I think all of the work that they're doing in terms of attacking the government agencies will make people poorer. Because, you know, when you get agencies that are supposed to protect us from corporate interests, they will externalize their costs, those corporations, instead of actually assuming themselves. So their profits are made on the backs of all of us, whether it's our health, our protection from consumer rights, worker rights. His anti-union policies will make us poorer.
So real quick, I'm going to touch on one of the things that you said. Now, there was a lot to unpack there, but
there's
we'll
a lot
start,
of policies.
we'll start at the very beginning. You talked about taxes. Let's talk about, in his first term, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. There are a couple things in that specific policy that actually do benefit the middle class and the lower class more than the top 1%. So you mentioned taxes, right? But in that, from the IRS data that came out, the middle class and lower class got affected. I think they ended up saving like 3 to 4% on their taxes, on their tax cuts, whereas the billionaires only saved 2%. So if we're talking an actual dollar amount, sure, the billionaires save more, but they also make a lot more, right? Also, the billionaires don't really care.
Americans making 50 to 100K saw their average federal tax liability drop by 30% from 2017 to 2018, while Americans making more than $1 million saw a 6% drop.
About an extra grand or two. In that specific policy, the child tax credit doubled from $1,000 per household to $2,000. No billionaire cares about an extra grand in their pocket, but I can guarantee you the working class does. So how would you rebuttal that?
I would say, in terms of the taxes themselves, well, the policies that Trump wants to pursue this time are to expand those taxes for wealthy folks. And over time, what starts to happen is you have this wealth disparity, and as the wealth disparity increases, it becomes harder for working people, essentially, to keep up. Things become more expensive. You get inflationary pressures when you have people with more money. We have more and more billionaires than we did 4 years ago. And a large part of that was obviously COVID, but a large part of it is also money starts to accelerate. Once you, like you say, when a millionaire gets a tax cut for a couple of grand or 60 grand or $500,000 at the end of the day, they end up investing that and ends up growing because they're not out there working for their money. Their money is just is doing all the work.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think we can agree with you on that when it comes to, you know, billionaires and millionaires and there being a wealth gap in our country, right? I don't think Republicans or liberals would disagree on that, but I think where we will fundamentally disagree is under Trump, right, the stats show that take-home pay was higher for the middle class and the lower class. Inflation was down. They weren't paying as much on taxes.
Inflation was down, but wage growth was actually greater during the Biden administration.
Well, that's because due to COVID, when a lot of people lost jobs.
No. I mean, I'm talking in percentage comparison between those 4 years and these past 4 years, wage growth grew, not from as a baseline on 2020, but I'm talking as a baseline from 2016.
Interesting. Okay, well then another point that I want to talk on with you real quick is you talked about slashing government agencies, for instance, the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm sure you've heard about that a lot in the news.
That's not a government agency. That's just some
committee. It actually an executive order was signed to make DOGE an official government agency as of less than a week ago. So yeah, It is an official government agency. So obviously we're talking about money. We want people.
DOGE is not a full government agency. President Trump reorganized an existing group within the executive office of the president to form DOGE, which has team members working with agency heads.
People be able to afford a house. We want them to be able to afford to raise a family, right? As a young man myself, I want to be able to grow up in America and be able to afford food one day, right?
Can't.
I mean, I can now, but continue that. And at the way things are going, it's unsustainable for people on the left, people on the right, people in the middle. So we have to come to a common ground on how to fix that. What's unsustainable? The fact that cost of living is increasing year after year.
What does DOGE do to inhibit cost of living?
Yeah, absolutely. So what DOGE is going to do, the Department of Government Efficiency, is slash.
Guy gives me like salesman energy, like he's gonna knock on my door and try to sell me a fucking solar panel or some shit.
A lot of the federal spending, right? So what happens when the feds...
What spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. 1 second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government, Republicans, Democrats alike, spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Be more specific. Here or there, are you talking about cutting
for
defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
wait a second.
Well, no. Let me finish. Okay. $175 billion to Ukraine, first and foremost. That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to talk about that, but we also have a bunch of other things in the Defense Department, as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching, first of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's completely false.
Listen. Defense spending is not going to be touched by DOGE.
Wrong.
And when you talk about the government, what's the biggest expenditure government has?
Our military and Social Security are our top two.
And Medicare and Medicaid, right? Now, they're not going to touch the military. Are they going to cut Social Security? Do you think that's going to...
You're asking me like I'm part of DOGE.
No. Well, you're telling me that DOGE is going to help everybody here. And I'm telling you, if they cut Social Security, everybody in here is going to get hit. Because these folks are going to have to pay for their parents because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to
So he's going to...
Yes, so Donald Trump has signed an executive order.
Boss, you've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. Oh God, is this the other? Well, actually, this guy will seem to be the smart.
Okay, so why did we see
Myron, you are this kind. You're not black.
A higher increase in the top 1% paying as part of federal income revenue under TCJA?
Why did we see a higher increase in the...
So under TCJA, it was passed 2017. Right. It was effective 2018. 2018 and onward, we actually saw the top 1% pay more. They had more of the federal income tax burden. They paid 45% as opposed to Obama. During Obama's tax plan, they only paid about 40 to 42% of the federal income tax.
Because they got more money.
Right, okay, so they got more money.
They got richer.
But why are they paying, and why did they get richer? So this goes on inflation that...
I mean, that's my point, is the rich are getting richer.
Right, but why would you say that they're getting richer? But you mentioned inflation?
No, they're not. Well, I mean, I think that the inflation, to the extent that there was money that wasn't a function of like logistics and other problems that we had during COVID, yeah, the rich got richer. Not all inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus into the economy, you can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics. Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can tell you this: inflation went up in Western European countries at the same rates that it did.
That had stimulus.
No. They didn't have the same level of stimulus that we did. No, they did.
They absolutely did.
They did.
You can look at Japan. Yeah, I hear this topic all the time from the Democrats. They say, "Oh, inflation was global." Not true. China never went above 3% inflation during all of COVID, and they were actually they were under deflationary pressures. Japan, which is part of the G7, was also never had deflationary pressures. They never had inflation increase. The only countries that had inflation increase.
In Western Europe, you could see inflation. Well, you could England, Germany, Italy, France. They didn't stimulate as much as we did. It wasn't monetary inflation. If you look at the cost of goods.
In a study of advanced economies, the inflation rate at least doubled from early 2020 to early 2022 in 37 of 44 countries. In 16 countries, the inflation rate quadrupled. Okay, that doesn't really... It would have helped more if they had said, if those countries had all passed out those stimmies or not, but Jubilee sucks, so...
And logistics got screwed up because of COVID.
So let's look at the reason. All international trade, because we're the world reserve currency, is done in U.S. dollars. Because we experience it, domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation caused higher inflation in Europe?
Absolutely, because
that's
trade,
not what economists say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar-denominated international trade. All international trade is that's why we're the world reserve currency. You guys claim that that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
it did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export our inflation. Like the strength.
We export our inflation.
Yeah, and let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe asset in the world. In times of great crisis and great volatility, like COVID crisis, everybody turns to the dollar.
Sure.
Many currencies are tied to the dollar. So it's like when you
the euro is not tied to the dollar.
The euro is not, but international
okay.
trade. So if the euro actually crashed against the dollar during COVID. The euro used to be above the dollar.
I'm unclear what your point.
My point is that the inflation is caused by left-wing policies, and
so inflation was caused by, you're saying,
supply shock and pumping trillions of dollars into the economy.
First of all, you understand that the Federal Reserve is not part of Biden. Didn't have control over the Federal Reserve.
Absolutely not, but the entire Federal Reserve System is left-wing in economic theory. That's the Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics. So
you're saying that the
more you
quantitative easing,
the more you stimulate. Yeah.
Why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it through QE.
Why didn't we get inflation during the Obama years?
We did get inflation.
We didn't get
the wealth gap that you guys attribute.
Wait.
We absolutely did.
What numbers of inflation did we get during the Obama years that were outside of like the 2% sort of Fed target?
I don't think it was as high as COVID. COVID hit as high as 9%.
No, it wasn't even remotely
right,
close.
But when we look at the effects of compounding inflation.
QE 1, 2, and
for most of the Obama administration, the consumer price inflation hovered around or under 2%.
3 all happened during the Obama years. If your theory was correct, we would have had rampant inflation. In fact, Glenn Beck was talking about how we were going to turn into Weimar Germany, and none of that happened.
Here's the factors you're missing.
None of it.
Here's the factors you're missing.
So if you look at what's happening at Western Europe, well, no, listen.
We didn't close down the economy. The Biden administration closed down the economy.
I understand.
No, that was not the entire world.
Excuse me. The Biden administration?
Yes, they forced mask mandates. They supported Democrats.
Wait.
They supported Democrat states.
Do you not remember who was president in the first year of COVID?
What? Yeah, it was Trump. I'm not. Right. So I'm not saying Trump had a role in this, but I'm saying.
Well, wait a second. By the time in 2021, the economy was opening back up.
Yes, the economy.
All of what you're talking about.
No thanks to the Democrats.
Well, okay,
the Democrats wanted to keep it closed.
Okay. Okay, you can talk about hypothetically what the Democrats want, but
it's not hypothetically. We can look at mass. We can look at their mandates. We can look at them closing down.
The economy closed down in 2020, March of 2020.
Well, okay, sure.
Donald Trump was president.
Pause. You've been voted.
That's the thing I don't get. It's like, bruh, your boy was president. He's the one who left it up to the states. He could have just said, we're not fucking closing down. Why didn't he do that?
Out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
How's it going, sir?
Good. How you doing? Sam.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When you're talking about like inflation, in 2021.
This nigga, he looks like Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle if he had like an Amish arc.
Janet Yellen said it would be transitory, and then again in 2022 she said it would be transitory, and
if what was the dad's name? I don't remember. If the dad was on pills, I'm sorry.
Turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine. And I believe, and I can explain, that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad foreign policy, and that shot inflation up from, like, there was already pretty bad inflation in early 2022 and late 2021, but it shot it up from the.
I think Russian, I never think blonde.
Low kind of margins in like 3 or 4%, all the way to 9% in 2022 of July at the peak.
Inflation is now down around 2%, around where
in between 2.5.
Yeah, and 6, where they're looking to get it, and we have really close to record unemployment that we've had over the past 4 years. But how does this have to do with Trump's policies not making the richer richer and the rest of us poor?
Okay, so what I was just explaining with, I was going to get into oil prices. So oil prices skyrocketed in 2022 because in 2021, when Biden got into office, he he shut down our Keystone pipeline, shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then he took the sanctions off.
We are producing right now more oil in this country than we ever have in the history of any country everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
On top of the fact that Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I, am terribly excited about.
What did he just do on the East Coast?
Apparently, what Biden did during the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back up, and he filled it back up, and he broke the negotiating power and the price setting power by oil countries across the world. Really, I mean, oil traders hail him for doing this, and frankly, I don't think it's that impressive. But let's talk about what Trump's policies are.
We only have a little bit of time left, but I was getting to that. So oil prices in 2021, Biden took all the sanctions off of the pipeline in Russia, and then the pipeline in Russia ran straight through Ukraine originally, and he knew that if he invaded Ukraine would destroy the pipeline, and his economic success would be destroyed in Russia. And then when the sanctions,
Biden or
Putin knew that would occur in Russia if the sanctions were taken off of that pipeline, and Biden took all the sanctions off of Nord Stream 2 in Russia, like the second week he was in office, and then a year later, Putin invades Ukraine, sanctions happen all over the world, and inflation rises within 6 months all the way up to 9%. Trump is going to do great things with oil and let us drill, and what that actually does for
drill, baby, drill.
Like I say, we are producing more oil in this country than any country in the history of the world.
What executive order did Biden just sign to have to do with offshore drilling in the East Coast?
He stopped it.
Yeah, really dumb idea. We're about to begin a new.
So you want to go beyond even the record-breaking thing?
Yes, I want to become energy independent.
Climate,
and that lowers inflation.
We're going to sell this oil. We don't use the oil. We sell it. We sell
getting money in the pockets of American citizens.
We sell it.
In the pocket of American citizens.
What?
You think when these niggas sell this American oil, you're gonna get a check, dumbass?
This nigga is talking like Dr. Umar. Let me get my reparation with.
We gonna get 15% of electricity.
Well, how is that?
Give me some of that oil too.
Yeah. Go ahead. Add that on.
Of American citizens,
because when you lower the prices of oil, that lowers the prices of all products.
I understand that the inflationary prices.
Yeah, but he said they're going to sell the excess.
Effect of energy. But the fact of the matter is, they're just going to sell it.
Yeah,
we're going to sell it.
Yeah, so we're going to.
You want to produce even more oil than we are now.
Yes.
And you don't think climate change is going to impact. No. You don't believe in climate change.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion, but no.
Well, I mean, it's sort of the same discussion.
Yeah, no, I believe that climate change is, there's obviously an element of climate change that is partially true, but lowering or
Which part of it?
Raising the man-made raising temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius in the next 150 years isn't necessarily a detriment to society. Human beings.
You don't think so?
No, human beings are very good at innovation, and we can build seawalls, and we can create carbon technology.
What kind of seawall are you going to build for Miami? What are you going to do about when we don't? When we get?
I'm talking about the economy right now. Which, if we get back on topic.
All right, guys. Sorry, time's up. I let you go.
Yeah, no problem.
Longer.
Guys, you are so fucking stupid. Who's he gonna choose? Choose one person to talk to. Who's your guess? I know my guess.
Obviously, he's gonna choose a black person because DEI. Doy.
That's true. Well, don't forget about the Arabs.
I choose Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security.
No, he went white, dude. He's racist.
No.
My claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
I disagree because largely because I think the primary right.
I don't care about this. We get it. That was.
You should care.
That was depressing. All right.